Hi everyone, I'm here to do another life purpose reading, life purpose in human designs, where we learn about our soul's blueprint and what it's meant to teach us, and in this series, what it's meant to teach you. And today I'm going to be talking about Elon Musk. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Raminder. I'm a lawyer, psychic healer, and activist based here in Vancouver, and I do life purpose readings, well, for my clients all the time, where we sit down. But in this particular series, I go over some influential figures and talk about what their purpose is, what their design is, as well as where they're kind of programmed and conditioned. And the purpose in doing this is a part of my purpose, but also to help kind of show you how their personality and how their subconscious really shapes who they are and what you see. And I thought Elon Musk would be someone really interesting for me to cover. Me on Instagram, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Elon Musk. I actually had a download, so like a psychic hit this morning, that he was actually not meant to be born into Earth. So I don't doubt or even negate the fact that he's a very smart person. We know that he wouldn't be able to get to where he is without being a very, very smart, intelligent, and gifted individual. But he is very much he's a matrix individual, and he's meant to be in a different dimension, and not like in a bad matrix way, but he's meant to be in a different universe where more people are like the way he is. That's why he is keen to, like, what I say, colonize a different planet, and, you know, brain chips and things like that. And so 3D Earth is one of the planets, because there's life force everywhere. It doesn't have to be human. And on 3D Earth here, we are like the dumbest in terms of intelligence. So we're able to do a lot because God gave us hands to be able to create and to be able to kind of manipulate energy or morph it into what we want. We're on different planets. They're just on a higher vibration where they don't have worries like we do, like financial concerns and poverty and inflation. Like, that's not something that they're concerned about, because that's something they've transcended. A lot of people look at him kind of as a savior. The thing is, we can only save ourselves. A lot of people have been criticizing, including myself, the government for things that they want to implement, whether that's V-passes, digital ID, all that sort of stuff. And the thing is Musk is a huge part in that of that, and wants to do the same. He's the one that wants to create the brain chips and put them into people. Electric cars are great in many ways, but they're also problematic in many ways when it comes to the amount of energy and waste that goes into creating batteries and then recycling and disposing of batteries, and what that really entails and how that harms the planet. So it's a double-edged sword in terms of that. Of course, it saves you money on gas, but what does it do to the environment? So I'm going to get into his human design. As I said at the beginning, human design is our soul's blueprint. It's the way in which we were born. It's where we have our activations, okay? So in human design, which I'm going to put up the chart here, we have all these centers, and our 9 centers are similar to our chakra system. We have 2 more that we don't have in our chakra system, which is the spleen, as well as the G center. And I'm not going to go through everything super in depth, but I am just going to go through the main things that really come through in his chart, okay? So I'll be looking down at my notes and the chart here. I don't have my glasses on, but I think I can see if I move my paper. So let's start with his type. Elon Musk is a manifesting generator. I'm not surprised there. As a manifesting generator, he has the ability to create light and sustain light by taking action steps and being in the flow of kind of like doing things that people like, right? Like, he's really got his art down, so he knows what people want. He's very good at that, which is why people relate to him and feel that he's an empathetic person, which I'm not saying he isn't, but that's why people are guided towards him and magnetized towards him, because he's able to really connect to everybody around him. That's really a generator sort of trait. As a manifestor in this manifesting generator type, he's able to be a leader and take informed action. So when he hears what people want, he's like, oh, this is what's going to have me gain their trust. Let me create that and build that as a part of my brand. And so he's really like toned in and concentrated on being able to do that. And as I said, he has created great things, and so I'm not trying to speak too negatively about him. I'm just naturally a skeptical person when it comes to him. So as a manifesting generator, it's important for him to take time to rest. But the thing is because he's met with so much positivity and receptivity, he doesn't really need to rest because he's getting his cup filled by the accolades and by everybody around him praising him. So he doesn't really need to hermit. He can just move on to the next project. He's like, oh yeah, I already got the support anyway. Like, a doubt doesn't really live in his mind too much, and that, you don't really have that resistance when you have billions of dollars to back you. You're not too worried about what's going to be my next thing in terms of sustenance. It's more of like his creative flow is always going, and so that's what causes the anxiety a little bit more, okay? The not self theme for a generator is frustration. So when he's out of alignment, he's going to be frustrated. So when he starts to lash out and he starts to go on a Twitter rant, or he starts to like go off on people, that's when you know he's out of alignment. That's when you know he's been triggered by something somebody has said or whatever, okay? When he's in alignment, he's going to have that satisfaction. So that's when you see him being confident, when you see him being calm and respectful. That's when you know he's in alignment and he's doing it for the right reasons, let's say. An example could be when Elton John, I don't know if you saw, but Elton John tweeted that he was going to be leaving Twitter because it was becoming an area of misinformation or something. I love Elton John. I went to his concert and I was like, well, that's that generation, I guess, right? A lot of internalized homophobia there too. I love you, Elton, just saying. The response was, what can I do to kind of make it better, right? What's the reason? And that was actually a genuine response. I was like, oh wow, like he's not frustrated or sarcastic. I think it's because he has a level of respect for this individual, and so he wanted to show that respect back. All right, so I'm not going to go too much into his authority, which is a sacral authority. As I said, he's really led by what people around him kind of want and need. That drives his passion. And in his sacral authority, he's able to follow his gut response. So it's like he also has a spleen. His spleen is the triangle that's colored in. That's also defined. And so his instincts are very strong. That's what our spleen is. It's our yes or no instinct, is the direction in which we want to go right away. When we hear something, it's like, yeah, I got to do that, or no, I shouldn't do that. And so for him, he's very inclined to like follow that instinct to see what he needs to create, which direction he needs to move in, okay? We have his profile, which is his personality, and that is 3-5. He's a martyr heretic. A martyr is like the experimenter. The heretic is a rebellious teacher. So we see that all the time within his energy. He's an intrapersonal profile, meaning that he learns his karma through other people. So that could be, for example, taking over Twitter and then realizing that people don't want him there, right? It could be going into his marriage and realizing it's not fulfilling, or my wife doesn't want to be with me, or I don't want to be with her. And so I see that also as a huge part of his purpose, and his lesson is learning about himself in that way, and whether he's going to balance out enough to be able to look at his own kind of triggers and trauma. I don't really know. Like, from what I can sense, he's had, I don't want to say a rough upbringing, but he's been raised in a very egotistical home. His father has very similar traits, and so naturally that can be passed on. Whether that's something he has started unpacking or is unpacking, I'm uncertain. We're going to get a little bit into that when I go through his birth chart briefly at the end. But generally, as a martyr heretic, the experimentation is, let me try new things, right? Taking over Twitter was, let me try a new thing and experiment and see how it works. It could be, with any sort of AI stuff he's doing, or technology, any scientific experiment. It's, let me do this, let me experiment for you because I have the resources to do so, and then I'll teach you about it. And so when it comes to purpose, he's very much living in that way, okay? His overall purpose is a right angle cross of service. So I'm just going to read my notes here. It's about getting it together. It's about correcting what's going wrong. And he likes to seek people's opinions in that. And so purpose is the way we act. It's not a destination. So he's very much living in purpose because his purpose is to shape the world into a better place. And that, whether that's indirectly or directly, he's doing that. Indirectly, it's him being a trigger and a catalyst to make change because of people's perceptions of what he does, whatever that is, positive or negative. And then there's the direct desire to make change in other ways when it comes to technology. He, again, wants to shape the world into a better place and seeks people's opinions to do so. He's pretty balanced in his energy, to be honest. The like where he gets a hiccup is when he becomes egotistical about things and believes that his way is the only way and becomes condescending. So when he does that, he indirectly triggers people to see like, that's not right. I don't believe that mindset, or I don't really believe what he's saying in that regard. Therefore, I'm going to change what I do or who I follow or whatever. Okay. In terms of the arrows that are on the human design, the one that's going to the right on the top in the red is all about his digestion. He has a passive digestion, which means that he processes information a little bit slower. And so he has to be in environments to know the answers. For example, Twitter is a perfect example. He had to be in that environment and see it through to make his decision about whether that was the right choice. A lot of people lost money in that. A lot of people lost jobs in that. A lot of the woke mob was saying, well, people, if they don't want to work, they shouldn't have a job. Like, it wasn't about that. He was basically like, if you don't want to work longer hours and you're already working, which was over full time, you can leave. To me, that's not a productive work environment. That's not helping people. That's actually taking them out of alignment and telling them to burn out. And yeah, so that I find very, very problematic. At the bottom, we have the environment. So he likes the structured environment, which makes sense. That's why he has this control of, this is what my environment needs to look like. This is what people have to do. He has logic in his awareness level. And so, of course, he's a logical person. He's not a very spiritual person. He is kind of caught up in the, like I said, that matrix sort of energy, except it's in a different dimension. And he's a non-specific manifester. And what that means is he manifests based on how he feels intuitively, okay? So let's get into his actual like activation. So we have 64 gates in human design. Where we're activated are where they're colored in the human design chart. The centers, which are those 9 kind of blocks and triangles, are our like our core kind of indicators in human design. And so I'm just going to go through what was really sticking out to me, and I'm going to look at my notes while I do this, okay? The first piece that really stood out to me, so the yellow kind of like square diamond is the G center, which is all about identity, but he's disconnected from his heart. His heart is right under that, the little triangle that's not colored in, okay? And that's ego in human design. And so generally his identity is really disconnected from his heart. Like, he has a very strong ego, and because of that identity, like that he has created for himself and that he believes he needs to maintain, he has a hard time connecting to his heart, which naturally has transpired into the dissipation of romantic relationships because he's too focused on himself. He's really self-centered. So when it comes to providing that outwardly, he has a hard time doing it unconditionally, unfortunately, and I hope that that's something that really, really changes for him. A couple of the gates that I want to talk about, 52 being one of his main gates of purpose. He has an ability to see a bigger perspective and has clarity around his surroundings. So again, like I said, he's able to trust his gut response and instinct and take this knowledge and take the information from everybody around him and implement that into what he creates for them. Gives him a big ego boost, but of course has made him very successful. Channel 20 to 34, it talks about unifying people and empowering them to bring them together. Very much living in that purpose by creating communities of individuals, no matter what their opinions are. He is bringing a sense of unity. And overall, there is like, judgment is very 3D. Labels are very 3D. I talked about this in my What is a Woman video. It's a very 3D, lack of consciousness approach to things. Does that mean that there aren't problematic things going on right now? No, that's not what it means. But people that are kind of confused or trying to figure out what they stand for, they're able to find a community amongst these like initiatives to feel heard and to feel safe. I think that's very empowering. 18 to 58, he has the ability to restore joy and vitality and magnetism within Earth. So it's like he has the ability to spark interest and to get people's vibe up. Like, oh yeah, but that we have to be careful with that because he's not a savior. He's not here to help you out of a dark hole. That's something that only we can do individually for ourselves, okay? And 2 to 14, he's going to continue to make more money when he's in alignment. And in alignment means he's getting the accolades, basically, because that's what helps him. It's kind of crazy, right? That's what makes him billions of dollars, is when people praise him. So Spread that love amongst other people around you, okay? Because it'll give them the motivation. He doesn't need another $1 billion. All right, let's talk a little bit about his conditioning. 64 to 47, he has a hard time really transforming his mindset to believe beyond what he actually sees scientifically. He doesn't really see the possibility beyond what he can create. He believes that he is the highest level of creation. And so when it comes to that, it's like nobody can do it better than me. And so perhaps on his team, he shuts people down easily. Not something I've heard, but could be something that happens. 26 to 44, he... funny. That's about integrity and truth as well as his marketing and healing. And so generally, he markets himself to be something that he's not in order to gain clout. And so that's something that he is wounded in, right? His inner child is wounded, never had validation growing up from his dad. And so now he's like, oh, I get validation from everybody else. And so he seeks to heal himself through that. So he markets himself to be approachable and empathetic and a people's man. But again, it's very ego-based. So just a confirmation of, or in alignment with what I was saying earlier. 39 to 55, he believes that he's an activist. Not that he's not doing well. He's doing it from a place of limitation. Okay? So the thing is, he hasn't been an activist for people that aren't like him. He's been an activist for people who think the same. And it's kind of funny because when people find out that I am V-free and I advocate for those that are not V-free, for some reason they take that offensively. I'm like, no, I'm actually genuinely advocating for your rights, even if I chose a different approach. And that approach was my reason, and that was over 2 years ago that I made that decision. That was before a lot of this had happened. So it's like not really anybody's business, but if I have to have the same choice as you in order for you to feel validated, that's not a me problem. And so I have got a lot of those kind of hate comments where people suddenly started to judge me because I made a different choice and thought that I couldn't advocate for their rights. It's kind of ironic because part of being an empath is being there for everybody around you, no matter who you are. A couple of other things I want to go through. 45 to 21. A couple of things that gets in the way, or another just reiteration of what I was saying was he tries to control his environment, which ends up controlling his success. So because he likes so much structure and because he wants everybody to do what he says, he actually limits his growth and his success by doing that because he can't micromanage people that are at a higher level of consciousness or understanding their spiritual connection. And he doesn't like taking people's opinions because he, again, likes to have things in a row. And if somebody has an opinion about something, he's going to shut it off right away. Human design reading and life purpose reading, you can get that via the link in my description box. We go through your chart for 1 hour. I promise it's not as, like mean as when I do these influential individuals. You'll get a write-up along with that. It's a one-time reading, a one-time investment. So I hope to read for more of you. As I said, link in my description to get yours. All right, and lastly, I'm going to go over a little bit to do with his birth chart. His sun sign is Cancer, his moon sign is Virgo, his rising sign is Aries, okay? And so he has a good mix there, but a lot of ego to uncover. And this last year, he would have had or started his Chiron return. Last year was also when Chiron was swimming in Aries for the entirety of 2022. And so that is a wounded leader energy. That is a wounded masculine energy that would have been unpacked and redefined. And, he would have been given the opportunity to look internal. And I think that really did start during the end of last year. And he's going to continue to do more work, hopefully, to discover parts of himself that he's shut off for the last 50 years. He's 51 years old now. He's going to be turning 52 if you can believe it. He doesn't really look that age. I didn't know he was that old. I thought he was younger. And overall, because he's a rising in Aries and Chiron was in Aries, it would have really, really, really been difficult for him to transcend his ego, to transcend his anger, to transcend his reliance on people's view of him, for example, okay? He has a hard time opening up to his emotions. Moon in Virgo, very stubborn, very rigid, wants validation, wants to know that they'll be safe if they are vulnerable and courageous in their emotion. And so, you know, in order to really like look at that, he has to be okay with being emotional. His sun signs in Cancer, so naturally there's a lot of emotions that bubble up. Sometimes they come out in anger because he's out of alignment, right? And so a lot of emotions are bubbling up. He's a very sensitive person way deep down there. It's more about whether he's going to address, like not address it, but whether he's going to allow himself to feel his emotions, okay? When I look at his North Node is in Aquarius. We're about to hit Aquarius season in a couple of weeks. When it comes to the North Node, what I see is that he strives for friendship with like-minded people. And so in order to keep himself at bay or neutral, he surrounds himself with people that agree with him, like him, are naive or impressionable, that sort of thing. And so when somebody kind of questions him, he doesn't feel that they're committed to his growth, which is kind of ironic because his growth is not dependent on people's perceptions of him. He doesn't like being questioned. You can see that in his South Node in Leo. That really brings his ego out. That's really where he starts to say like, well, this is me and who I am and how dare you question me, right? We can see that with the Twitter scenario. He's pretty balanced in his energy. He will excel when he's vulnerable, when he's able to have integrity in his vulnerability, as I was talking about when it comes to his Cancer sign. A couple of other things I want to just quickly touch on. Moon square Venus. It's not likely that he'll be successful in his love life unless he's able to open up. We also have a Venus in, transit in Aquarius at this particular moment where Venus enters Aquarius. And it's like, you know, are you going to bring love into your relationships? And that doesn't have to be just romantic. It will be parents, friends, potential lovers, right? The public. And so for him, a square in Astro is like a really hard-headed energy. It's not collaborative at all. And so for him, his moon, which is like his emotions, are hard-headed against his feminine energy. And so like it's like this, right? And so what he has to do is be okay with being like, I'm going to open up, where eventually this softens and softens and softens. But naturally, it's not really something that's in his energy as like a success or an activation that's like really easy for him, I should say. Everything's possible, but he's not lucky in his love life because of this specific square. The other square I want to talk about is Sun square Pluto. So for him, he has a hard time taking responsibility. He has a hard time looking inward because once he starts to question himself, he triggers himself a lot. But that this helped. This was actually really fun to do. I haven't done this in a while. Next week, I believe I'll be doing Jagmeet Singh. Let me know who else you want in the comments below. I'm going to try to get to everybody's request so long as I feel that it is, you know, a person that I want to kind of read about. And please subscribe if you haven't. I would really appreciate it. Please like and give a thumbs up. It really helps me and the algorithm. And yeah, if you want a life purpose reading, as I said, you can get that via the description in my bio. And you can also get my merchandise in my bio and follow me on my other socials if you're not there. All right. Take care. See you next time. Bye.